Hello, and welcome back to yet another NFL video. We are almost done. This is number 7 and 6 of my ranking every NFL team series. I'm going to start doing two at a time, so it takes me quicker or take videos. The videos overall are shorter because I'm tired of posting 50-minute videos. I just feel like that's too long. Pause. And uh, I can get them out quicker. So hopefully we will continue this series and I will be able to upload a video every 2 days like the original plan was. And then finally, with only about a month before the season starts, I can actually get to college football, which I also do on this channel, even though you wouldn't know that if you've been watching all last month. But anyways, with all that being said, we have two of the top 7 teams in football to talk about today. Both play in the same conference, both play in the same conference as the Kansas City Chiefs. Both are better than the Kansas City Chiefs, in my humble opinion. But even though it is my humble opinion, I did correctly predict the winner of both the Super Bowl and the national championship game last season. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I mean, how many people did that? So, that's just my credentials for you. But listen, number 7 is where I have the Denver Broncos. 10-7 last season, massive shocker. I personally had them pegged as one of the worst teams in the league, right alongside with the Vikings, and I was dramatically wrong on both of those teams. And I was wrong about Sean Payton. In 2023, it just felt like things were not going according to plan. He butted heads with Russell Wilson, and a lot of people actually thought Sean Payton was the problem. And along that same tree, Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator. It was not even 2 years ago that they gave up a 70-point game to the Miami Dolphins, and everybody on planet Earth was calling for Vance Joseph's job, and he turned the Broncos in 1 year from that to a top 3 or 4 defense in the National Football League, depending on who you ask. It was an incredible transformation to watch. And on top of that, in the offseason, they spent their first round pick on Bo Nix, the 6th quarterback drafted in the first round. I was very high on Bo Nix. Obviously, it was a historic draft class. I had him at number 5. But, brother, so much of the hate that Bo Nix was getting throughout the draft process and even in college stemmed from his Auburn days, which were completely irrelevant if you paid any attention to the quarterback he became in his 2 years at Oregon. And what's the word, hyperbole. Let me not be hyperbolic here when I say if you just look statistically at Bo Nix, his 2 years at Oregon combined, he was the best quarterback in the country combined over those 2 years. Statistically, it's not even close. Put up anybody you want against Bo Nix. He was the best quarterback in the country. Now, they didn't, win any national championships to show for that, but I just feel like the Bo Nix hate was so forced and it was so clear to see. He grew and became a very, very good college quarterback. And I was high on him. I mean, in hindsight, I wish my Seahawks would have traded up and got him in the first round because he blew everybody away as a rookie. And listen, throughout the draft process, I said this before, rewind the tapes, go find what I said. Bo Nix would fit perfectly in the Broncos offense and Sean Payton's system because while he might not make all the explosive plays, he might not be the best athlete, he might not have the strongest arm. He reads and reacts to defense. He gets the ball out quickly, and he's accurate within 20 to 25 yards. He is perfect for a Sean Payton type offense, and he showed that. I mean, I remember in week 1 against the Seahawks, he struggled badly. And I think it was his first 2 games. He was like really, really bad. But he just continued to grow, continued to learn the offense, and he was thriving by the midseason, like November, December. He was amazing. And he led them really. I mean, the defense really was a strong point. Let me not try to be, heap too much praise onto him, but because guys like Jaden Daniels, sorry, were so good, Bo Nix kind of got brushed under the rug and as a rookie taking a really not so good on paper team to the playoffs. I mean, I'm trying to give him the credit that I felt like he did not get enough of last season. Now, overall, the offense, by the way, still punching above their weight class, in my opinion, 14th to 15th. Name a Pro Bowl from the Broncos offense last season. Can you do it? Maybe one offensive lineman if you're really pushing it, but it's like this was not a talented offense. This was one of the worst receiving corps on paper. They didn't have a tight end. They had one of the worst running back rooms, and they were above average. Are you kidding me? that is a extreme credit to Sean Payton, but also to Bo Nix and also the rest of the guys for stepping up. Because if it was just Bo Nix and Sean Payton, then it wouldn't have been 14 for 15. They had a lot of receivers, a couple offensive linemen, a running back or two that really played above expectations. So a lot of credit to the offense and defensively, shocking the world. I mean, Pat Surtain won the Defensive Player of the Year, if I'm not mistaken. The entire defense, their front seven, though, I believe they led the league in sacks. I mean, if you do that and you have a Hall of Fame level cornerback in the back end, you're going to do pretty well for yourself. So the Broncos defense, of course, we're going to get into that a little bit more so, but I think that is going to continue to be the strength for them moving forward. Let's talk about exactly how good they were last season. One thing I really like is that Bo Nix pretty much took every single snap of every game. Like, if the Broncos offense were out there, Bo Nix was out there. No other quarterback even threw a pass, I believe. Cortland Sutton came in and lit it up 2 for 2, 30 yards and a touchdown. But I mean, like, Bo Nix was out there. He got a ton of experience as a rookie, and I think he made the most of it. I mean, only got sacked 24 times as well. That's something I wasn't really expecting of him to be able to kind of. I knew he got the ball out quickly, so that kind of limits sacks in a way. But just the ability to be comfortable in the pocket, and also I also was I think I correctly pointed out how mobile he was, like sneaky athletic, but I did not think that would result in 430 rushing yards as a rookie and a receiving touchdown as well, just to add on top of that. So, or what was the total? 34 total touchdowns to just 15 turnovers. That is an amazing number for a rookie. And yeah, just a really impressive rookie season. I like to see what he would build off of that going into year two. And on top of that, this is a really deep and a really young wide receiver room. Cortland Sutton, obviously, I think, kind of proved himself to be one of the more slept on wide receiver ones in football, right up there with the likes of like a Jacoby Myers and Vegas. But you had two rookies last year, Deshaun Vele and Troy Franklin. Now, listen, I admit it, I am a completely biased Troy Franklin fan. I want the storyline of him to be Bo Nix's future wide receiver. I want that to come true. And as a 21-year-old rookie, I thought he had his moments where he really looked like a future potential, outside number 1 receiver. But Deshaun Vele, I don't know if he was undrafted, a 27-year-old rookie out of Utah with nearly 500 yards, has to, credit where credit is due. He pretty much took the role that Troy Franklin was hoping he'd have. But on top of that, you had two running backs who, in all, just to be respectful, a pretty lackluster running back duo of Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin. Marvin Mims, absolutely. As the season went on, he made more and more explosive plays. And he seemed like a guy where it's like, if he can just do the little things, he has the game breaking speed, the explosivity, he can bust the game wide open. But if he can just do the little things, if he can be a better blocker, if he can run more routes over the middle and just get his feet in bounds on the sideline, stuff like if he can do those types of things, I really do believe Marvin Mims has a bit of star potential in him as well. And what else here? Defensively, I mean, let's count the amount of guys who had at least 5 sacks. Let's start at the bottom. Dontrea Tillman, 5 sacks last year. Jonah Ellis, either a rookie or a second-round player out of Utah. I believe he's a third-round pick. 21 years old, 5 sacks. John Franklin Myers bounced around to several teams, 7 sacks last year. 18 QB hits. Who else? Nick Bonito with a massive all-pro caliber breakout season. Did he go to Oklahoma? I believe he did. 13.5 sacks, 16 TFLs. Absolute breakout from Nick Bonito. Also had a pick 6 in there. He was a monster last year. I believe he made the All-Pro team. Definitely deserved to. Who else there? His partner in crime, Jonathan Cooper, 10.5 sacks. Nobody talks. Absolutely nobody talks about Jonathan Cooper. This whole Broncos defense is underrated. But 10.5 sacks for Cooper, 10.5 for Bonito. That's 24 sacks combined between the two of them. And also, by the way, you see that? 40 QB hits, 15 TFLs from Zach Allen. What a monstrous trio. And look how young they are. 25 years old, 26 years old, 27 years old. I don't think Zach Allen's on his rookie deal, but all three of these guys, theoretically, could be on their rookie scale contracts. And they're already one of the best trios in the league in terms of getting after the quarterback. It's incredible. And man, just what a dangerous front seven. All credit is due to Vance Joseph for really turning this unit into something so special here. Moving on to the depth chart. Um, let's start with the offense. Not a whole lot of changes, if we're being honest here. Let's start with the offensive line, actually. where I usually like to start with these. Got my copious notes here as always. If you allow me to scroll over the Broncos defensive line here. Okay, so at the left tackle you have Quinn Miners. That is not who you have at the left tackle. Wait, is it? I scrolled to the wrong page here. My apologies. I believe it is Quinn Miners. Yes, you do have. No, I'm not. I'm completely wrong. He is a right guard. What am I looking at? All right. Left tackle, you have Garrett Bowles. Played over 1,000 snaps last year. Definitely a Pro Bowl caliber left tackle. A very, very good pass protector. According to PFF, only allowed 2 sacks in those 1,000+ snaps. Too many penalties is his problem. 16 on the season. He definitely needs to clean that up. But in terms of franchise left tackles, really doesn't get much better. Drafted in the first round all the way back in 2017. How old is he? He's like early 30s, got to be. Ben Powers, the left guard, got him a season ago from Baltimore if I'm not mistaken. Also, Iron Man played well over 1,000 snaps. PFF grades are above average, actually debatably good, depending on how you judge things. So Ben Powers, a very solid starter at left guard. Luke Wattenberg, probably the guy with the least experience on this offensive line, played about 800 snaps for him. Very good in pass protection, but not a great run blocker. I kind of like that to be flipped for a center. Maybe that's just my philosophy. I would rather have a center who's a real good run blocker, not the best pass protector, because he can get help from either side, if you get where I'm coming from here. But yeah, probably their weakest offensive lineman is Luke Wattenberg. Quinn Miners, though, the right guard, definitely a Pro Bowl caliber, might even be an all pro caliber right guard, depending on who you ask. You do not see many uh, guards in football with ratings like he has. Also played the most snaps of anybody on the offensive line last season, only allowed a single sack, and was a very good both run and pass protector last season, according to PFF. Definitely a dog. Might be their best player on their entire offense, if we're being honest with each other. And then Mike McGlinchey got him in free agency from the Niners a couple years ago. Not the best right tackle, but definitely somebody who you wouldn't say is a weakness. He makes your offensive line better rather than worse. He's a good pass protector and a run blocker. And yeah, just I think it was an underrated pickup. With how much offensive linemen are getting paid, a lot of people call that an overpay, but just to have your tackles set up like they do with Bowles and McGlinchey, and I just think it's a really good offensive line. Underrated offensive line. Don't see it talked about a lot, just around the league. And defensively here, let's talk about the three major additions that they made. Actually, before we talk about those major additions, let's talk about all the guys who had big seasons last year that they bring back on the front seven, that is. Dontrell Tillman, Jonah Ellis, Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen. All six of those guys had 5+ sacks last year, and all six of them come back. I just wanted to point that out because if you're trying to figure out reasons the Broncos defense is going to get worse somehow, you cannot point to the front seven. That is going to be a great unit yet again. And let's see here. Three additions I want to talk about. Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, both from the 49ers, and then Jahdae Barron in the first round of the NFL draft. What is the likelihood that how many of these guys do you think are going to be Pro Bowl level players next season? I would say at least one. Likely two, but at least one because Greenlaw and Afunga both have dealt with major injury concerns in their time in the Bay Area. So I'm going to say at least one of them is a bona fide Pro Bowler next season. At least two of them are going to be very valuable starters who make the defense better overall. Even if that's the case and one of them's a complete dud, we're talking about a top 3 or 4 defense that just improved massively at two different position groups. That's incredible. I mean, like that, it is just to have such a talented unit and make it noticeably better in the offseason. I really feel bad for whoever has to play the Broncos next season, especially if you're from like out of their division and you're not necessarily used to playing them. Their defense is going to punch you in the mouth. It's going to be a lot of low scoring games playing against the Broncos next season. I can tell you that much. And let's talk about their overall. Anybody want to mention? Obviously, you got Pat Surtain, Defensive Player of the Year. Riley Moss. Now, I don't know if he's going to play outside, and you got Barron in the slot, but I think their cornerback trio of Riley Moss, Pat Surtain, Jahdae Barron might be up there. I'm not saying it's number one, number two, but I don't. Off the top of my head, I cannot put it any lower than number three. Alex Singleton, stand-up linebacker, Dre Greenlaw as well. I love that duo. Well, I really like that duo, I'll say. It just not only do they have elite Pro Bowl, all pro level players, Look at the young guys they have behind them. Savion Jones in the third round this year. Jonah Ellis, third round the year before. Drew Sanders, the year before, out of Arkansas, third round pick. Chris Abrams Drain, that was a steal last year in 2024 in the secondary. So they got the stars up front, but they also have a good group of depth, young depth pieces behind them. I just love the way the Broncos defense has been constructed. That's what I wanted to point out right there. Obviously, quarterback is the same player. I do think and expect Bo Nix to get better, but it's the same player. I don't think he's going to have a major increase, if you will. So I do have him or that position group remaining even. Wide receiver, they have so many young receivers, and they did draft a rookie and a Pat Bryant out of Illinois that I do think overall, because they added so many good young players, that it's going to improve overall, even if it is just by players you already had making improvements. Running back, you add J.K. Dobbins. I didn't even talk about that. J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. When they drafted R.J. Harvey, I would have preferred a guy like Cam Scatterbo. That's just my opinion. But now that they got a guy like J.K. Dobbins, I think the R.J. Harvey selection makes a little bit more sense. I liked R.J. Harvey as your bell cow back. I didn't love it. But now having the combination of him and J.K. Dobbins, I like that a lot better. The Broncos just upgraded at both their number one and their number two running backs. I like that a lot. Tight end, they bring in Evan Ingram from Jacksonville, only 2 years removed from a true Pro Bowl season there. So remember, they didn't have a tight end at all. Who was their leading tight end? If you go to the stats here, their leading tight end had a whopping 188 yards. And you know how much Sean Payton loves to use the tight end in his offense. So Evan Ingram could be in for a massive bounce back season here in Denver. Do not overlook that. Offensive line remains the same, pretty good unit. Defensive line remains the same, elite unit. Linebacker gets better because you add in Drake Greenlaw. You do lose Cody Barton, but I think um, it could be a wash, to be honest. But I'm going to say a slight upgrade because you got Drake Greenlaw in there. Safety, you add in Talanoa Hufanga, obviously an upgrade. And corner, you draft Jade Barron, giving you one of the best units in football at that position. So definitely have to give credit where credit is due. The Broncos were a young team that made the playoffs, and they went out and had a great offseason to build off of a shockingly good 2024. Credit to them. Let's talk about my projections for their record in 2025. Let me tell you, I kind of break it down by like fourths. So if you look at the first four games of the season, two road games, two home games. The road games are the tougher opponents, in my opinion. They get the Titans at home. That should be a W. The Bengals at home. I don't know the split here, to be quite honest with you, but I would expect them to go 3-1 through that stretch. Maybe that's a little bit far fetched for you, but their first four games, I expect them to go 3-1. Their next four games, they get three home games. I also expect them to win three of those games. The Eagles on the road, that's not going to be easy. That's not going to be easy at all. But the Jets and Giants at home, fairly easy money. Those offenses are going to struggle massively to score on the Broncos. And then the Cowboys, not so easy, but I do have them picking up that one as well. So through 8 games, I have them around 6-2. Their next four games: Texans on the road, Raiders, Chiefs at home, Commanders on the road. You play some tough teams here. I got like what, three of my top 12 or 13 teams here, two of which are on the road. I have them going 2-2 in this stretch, beating the Raiders at home for sure, and then hopefully beating one of the Texans, Chiefs, or Commanders. So now we have them at 8-4 through 12 games. Now let's look at their final 5 games altogether. Thankfully, you got three at home, two on the road. That Chargers home game as their final game could loom large. Is what I'm saying here, possibly for the division. Jaguars, Raiders, Packers, Chiefs chart. It's tough. I mean, I would like to just say I'm gonna give them the Jaguars Raiders games, but I'm not sure about that. I don't think they're gonna be able to sweep the Raiders. But Packers, Chargers at home, I'm gonna give them at least one of those. So we got one from the Packers, Jaguars, one or from the Packers, sorry, one from the Raiders, Jaguars, one from the Packers, Chargers. So that's 10 wins right there. And then if they can beat the Chiefs on the road, that would be for what, 10 or 11 wins. Yeah, I got them around 10 or 11. They did win 10 last season. They play in a very, very difficult division, and they do play Commanders and the Eagles on the road. That's a difficult draw. Also, got to play the Packers in there, so that's not so easy. So, not the easiest out of division schedule, if you will, but I do think they're good enough to overcome that and win possibly even more games than they did the year before. Number 6 is where I have the Los Angeles Chargers. It's really impressive to me how quickly Jim Harbaugh was able to implement his own identity and mentality on the Chargers team, it was instant. Like there was no growing pains. It just felt like the moment I started like watching and pay attention to them, it's like, oh wow, they look very different now. And I think everybody knew that they were good enough. Like they had the talent, obviously. Herbert is who he is. Like everybody was expecting this to be a team to make and win playoff games, but to go, to win 11 games in your first year as a coach, that just goes to show you're doing something right, of course. Um, Offensively, middle of the pack. I think this is kind of a bit flipped from what people may have been expecting for the Chargers. For I believe it's Jesse Minter as a new DC to come in and turn them into an elite defense, and then for their offense to not struggle but definitely change their approach. I think in years past they might have been a better offense than this, just based off how they used to run things, but turning into a run first, physical, team. And Justin Herbert. I mean, let's go to the stats here, if I may. Justin Herbert threw he was 13th in pass attempts. I don't care what you think about Justin Herbert. There is no world in hell where he's healthy and he shouldn't be in the top 10, right? But here's the benefit and the flip side of that. He threw 3 picks the whole year. Three. Like that is an insane amount of, caution, not caution, but just protecting the football. I mean, 3 interceptions, how many fumbles? Six, 9 turnovers on the year, and he still had 25 touchdowns. So it's not like he had like 16, 17 touchdowns. He was still making plays. And I believe there's a stat out there. I think it's called like air yards, or it's a stat where it goes to show how like deep you're actually throwing the ball when you throw it. Herbert was up near the top. So he was not dinking and dunking. Herbert was pushing the ball down the field. They just were not letting him nearly as much as like I would have, for example. And the interesting thing to me is that between their offensive line and their personnel in terms of running back, like J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, don't get me wrong, like neither of those are bad players, but I didn't feel like they had the personnel to be the physical pounding team that they were trying to be, if that makes sense. Now, they weren't expecting Ladd McConkey to break out and become as amazing as he ended up being last season. But I just think that if they would have had a mentality switch maybe earlier in the year, they could have turned this offense into something a little bit better. It wasn't bad, though. I mean, they were above average. It was good. But something doesn't sit right with how little they were throwing the ball with, Justin Herbert at quarterback. Now, let's talk about Quentin Johnston. So many people are just absolute haters of Quentin Johnston. I don't get it. I've always been a fan. I admit he didn't have a good rookie season, but here's the thing, man. Since when is it a rule that you have to be a Pro Bowler as a rookie first round pick wide receiver, or else you're a bust? Because here's the thing. If he would have had this as his rookie year, people would be so optimistic. 700 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he missed 2 games. Are you kidding me? This guy's on pace to be a star. That's what the whole narrative would be. But because his rookie season was bad, nobody is giving him any credit for the massive improvements he had. Like, brother, like 8 touchdowns in 15 games? That's impressive. I don't care who it is. Like, Julio Jones went season where he didn't have 8 touchdowns. So it's just, I just don't feel like he's getting enough credit and enough love when he does deserve it. Obviously, though, the majority of the praise, the overwhelming majority of the praise has to go to Ladd McConkey coming in as a second round rookie receiver and really dominating for large parts of the season. Like he was like everybody, it's weird. It's like everybody knew what he would do, but it's like he did it so well that it was just, difficult to stop, I guess. And him and Justin Herbert had a very good connection, especially later into the year that it went. So that was fun to see. And I do hope that by the way, interesting storyline. Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston played against each other in the 2023 National Championship, and that game was played in the Charger Stadium. So that's just a weird little storyline there in between them. But what else do I want to talk about with the Chargers here? They did upgrade though at several skill positions, so it's like I feel like they're more complete on offense now to do whatever they set their mind to, if that makes sense. And defensively, number one scoring defense. I didn't mention that yet, but like just take a look at the names that they had defensively. Obviously, your eyes probably go to Derwin James, Khalil Mack, maybe Joey Bosa, but it's like I don't think anybody would have picked this to be the number one scoring defense, especially with how many rookies they had, like playing big impact minutes, like between Cam Hart and where is he? Cornerback, great rookie cornerback. Harheeb Still, um, Diane Henley, very young player. Like they had a bunch of young guys that made massive impact. Tui Poloto, 22 years old. A bunch of young guys who stepped up in a big way last season and had massive impacts for him. Chargers and Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator, deserve a ton of credit because definitely playing above expectations and becoming one of the best defenses in the league. Let's talk about first with this offensive line because I'm definitely impressed. I love the decision to go out and get Mekhi Becton. He did have a big year for the Eagles, but I don't think it's a flash in the pan. I think getting him and keeping him at guard is what's best for his just continued success in the NFL. But if I can scroll here. So left tackle rather, you have Rashawn Slater, one of if not the best in the NFL. I mean, all pro talent, right? Pass grade over a 90, overall PFF grade 91. Like this is a guy that as soon as his contract comes, I believe it's next year, he might reset the entire market in terms of tackles. Zion Johnson, interesting. So he was above average last year, played almost exclusively as a guard, above average, young player still, but it looks like they're going to move him to center because Bradley Bozeman, uh, if if Zion Johnson was above average, Bradley Bozeman was painfully average. So that's an interesting switch. I'm not sure how much good it's going to do. Both of them played over 1,000 snaps. The grades aren't identical, but they're pretty similar. So I mean, certainly you don't love either of those positions, but at least you feel like Zion Johnson maybe could get better in time. Mekhi Becton coming in playing right guard for you. Obviously, we know how good he was for the Eagles. Damn near a Pro Bowl level right guard. Very excited to see what he can do playing for the Chargers. And then Joe Alt, man, I'll be the first to admit it. I was in the camp where I was saying they rather should have drafted Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors. Now, both of those guys ended up being Pro Bowl, all Pro level players as rookies. So I'm not saying I'm wrong with that, but I am definitely more accepting of the Chargers' decision to draft Joe Alt as high as they did. And it was never about Joe Alt. Everybody knew he was the best tackle in the class. He was a generational prospect, but I just thought they were lacking weapons and that they would benefit more from drafting the true generational prospects. But Jim Harbaugh had a vision. Joe Alt fit the vision, and he showed why he was a high draft pick as a rookie. Like as a rookie tackle, really impressive. Like these are damn near Pro Bowl numbers for anybody. But for a rookie to play over 1,000 snaps and play as well as he did, definitely feel like Joe Alt in the future is going to be one of the best players at his position in the entire league. And in combination with Rashawn Slater, this is going to be a very dominant group of tackles for years to come in LA. Talking about the rest of the offense overall, I love the pick of Trey Harris. I was hoping and praying that my Seahawks drafted him, but we did not draft him because I believe the Chargers took him right before us. But is what it is. I still give credit where credit is due. I love the addition of Trey Harris and Mike Williams. He's already hurt. I'm not even going to mention him. But between Lad McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Trey Harris, this could be a special, and I mean special trio of young receivers all on their rookie contracts. The Chargers could potentially have multiple Pro Bowlers out of this trio and be paying them pennies on the dollar. So Chargers have to make the most of that group right there. Also, Keandre Lambert Smith, Darius Davis, Brendan Rice. Remember Brendan Rice? People thought he was going to be like a third or a fourth round pick, fell to the seventh round out of USC. They have a lot of guys on this, a lot of receivers and running backs like you'd recognize by name. But I love how young and talented their wide receiver core is. I love the first round pick of Omarion Hampton. I mean, I was mocking him to the Chargers like towards the end of my mock drafts, but to actually see it happen, it makes complete sense. They had J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards last year. Now they have Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris out of Pittsburgh, one of the most overhated, underrated running backs in the league. Him as a 1-2 punch with Omarion Hampton. They kind of do the same thing, but it's like it's the thing that the Chargers want to do. Like they're going to run the ball 30 plus times a game, and that's going to come from primarily Hampton and Najee Harris just overpowering and wrecking poor linebackers and safeties for the entire game. I also like the additions they made to the tight end room. Oronde Gadsden, tight end out of Syracuse. I believe he's going to overtake Conklin in the depth chart and just add yet another weapon to this offense. So, man, they have so many directions that they could go next year. And I'm just excited to see how it's going to work because this should be one of the most complete teams in football, both offense and defense here. Talking a little bit more about this defense, massive changes in the front seven. Joey Bosa is no longer here, but here's the thing, man. The vision of Joey Bosa that some people have in their head is from like 5 or 6 years ago. He has been so consistently hurt. He's just not even close to being a Pro Bowl or an All Pro level impact for a team. Like it's just he was named a Pro Bowl last year, but he had 5 sacks. It's like let me go back to that actually. Bud Dupree down there at 31 years old, had more sacks, more TFLs than Joey Bosa, and he's only 29. So it's like I've given up on viewing Joey Bosa as some game changing Pro Bowl level player. It's just it's not a massive loss. I mean, you still got Bud Dupree, you drafted Kyle Kennard, and it's like you're expecting and hoping Tuipulotu to have a breakout year because he had 8.5 sacks last year. He was a very young player, and between him and Khalil Mack, I still expect them to be able to generate a sustainable pass rush. But Diane Henley, when they drafted him in the third round a couple years ago, that was one of those picks where I was like, oh, watch out for this guy. He's going to be a really good, talented player, one of the best coverage linebackers that there is in the game already. He's so young, and it's just interesting to see that that came to fruition. He is exactly what people said he was going to be 2 years out of the draft. And also, Junior Colson drafted him last year out of Michigan. Didn't play a massive role, but he was clearly, kind of getting his feet wet, if you will. And I do think he is going to take a step up, and that's going to be a really good young linebacking duo moving forward for him. And the secondary, you got Derwin James as the star. Interesting, he had like 5.5. He had more sacks than Joey Bosa last year. He had 5.5. He's kind of like a Jamal Adams, but who can cover. Definitely their best player on their entire defense. Also, you got Dante Jackson to replace Christian Fulton. I think that's what's it called? An equal exchange, if you will. Some people think Christian Fulton's better, but Dante Jackson, not a great tackle, but in coverage last year, extremely underrated. He was great last year in coverage. And then two rookies who excelled, Cam Hart, Tarheeb Still. Tarheeb Still definitely had the better season than Cam Hart, but both rookies, fifth round picks, and both of them are your starters 1 year later. The Chargers absolutely knocked the 2024 draft out of the park in hindsight. Man, that was a loaded class for them. Produced so many starters. Also got Elijah Molden. I don't know how hurt he is, but if he does come back this season somehow, I would expect him to add a lot of depth because I like their group, their three starters at cornerback, but their depth is pretty concerning to me. So I would like to see Elijah Molden come back healthy. So man, I love their defense, love their offense even more. So I mean, there's just not a whole lot of flaws that I see on this Chargers team. Looking towards their position rankings, quarterback remains the same. Obviously, wide receiver gets improved through the addition of Trey Harris, mostly running back. I could have said double improved because you did make upgrades at both your number one and number two, but I mean, it's like they're going to both be on the field at the same time. So it's like running back room is definitely upgraded, but I didn't give it two arrows. Uh, Maybe I should have. I don't know. But tight end also gets upgraded because the additions of Oronde Gadsden and I guess Tyler Conklin. Not a big Tyler Conklin fan, but who is? Offensive line certainly gets better because of the addition of Mekhi Becton. Also, hopefully, Rashawn Slater could play the whole season next year. Defensive line gets worse because you do lose Joey Bosa, but on top of that, you also do lose Puna Ford, who was actually a really good interior defensive lineman for him last year. That's going to be tough to replace. Might even be tougher to replace than Joey Bosa, if that makes sense. Linebacker could get better, but you're depending on young guys to improve. So it's the same group, but I think it could be better. Safety also remains the same group of guys, really talented. Obviously, Derwin James being a star. Cornerback, you know, it definitely. I'm almost expecting it to be better overall, but I just, I have to wait and see. So linebacker, cornerback could be better. Overall, the defensive line could be better. It's just they were a top 3 or 4 defense. It's like they didn't get much worse. Let me just put it that way. I'd be shocked if they're not like top 6 or 7. So this could definitely be a top 8 or 9 offense and defense next year. Cannot say that about a whole lot of teams, and that's what makes them so scary, in my opinion. Now, let's take a look at their record, break it down a little bit here. So, their first 4 games, right? Chiefs and Broncos at home. You got to win one of those, right? I mean, I think I think 4 wins in this division is the number. Like, I think whoever wins 4 games is going to win the division overall. So, these home games against your 2 biggest rivals certainly are going to be very important and loom large. On the road against the Raiders and Giants, I have them going 2-2 here in this stretch because I just think I would rather have it flipped. You know what I mean? I'd rather get the Raiders and Giants at home and then Chiefs and Broncos on the road because then I would have a better chance of sweeping the 2 worst teams and then beating one of the better 2 on the road. But I think they go 2-2 in the first 4 games. Next 4 at home, 3 of them, and then on the road against Miami. I have them going 3-1 in this stretch. I don't even know what the hardest game would be here. Maybe at home against the Commanders, but so through 8 games, I have them 5-3. Their next 4 at the Titans, home against the Steelers, at the Jaguars, home against the Raiders. Very, very easy stretch here. Not a single team here I'm expecting to win 10 games. So I have them going 3-1 in this stretch as well. Now have them at 8-4 entering their final 5 games. And boy, it's not easy. It is not easy at all. You got 3 road games, 3 games against the Eagles, Chiefs, Texans, and then I mentioned earlier that final game against the Broncos is massive. It's going to be tough, man. I got them going, I think 2-3, maybe. I mean, whoever wins that, that final game of the season, absolutely cannot understate how important that is. But I do have the Chargers going between 10 or 11 wins, same as the Broncos. So yeah, man, that is going to be it for this video. Please, please, please leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you are new. And yeah, man, I'll be back very shortly with my number 5 and 4 team in the NFL. So keep an eye out for that. And I hope you have a great day. Peace.